A wild trade proposal has surfaced sending Chris Paul, yes, Chris Paul, to the Chicago Bulls. We're going to break down everything you need to know about this trade proposal in this episode of Bulls Digest. As always, I'm your host, Joey Mercer, and before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 92% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed, so make sure that you go down below if you're watching this, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for notifications, and every time we upload a video, you will be the first to know. You'll be notified, so you won't have to search for this content anymore. We're looking to hit 1,000 subs by Christmas here at Bulls Digest, and I hope you can join us on that journey. So without further ado, let's start with the topic for today, which is a crazy proposal. So this is something that just dropped recently, which is a proposal sending Chris Paul, yes, of course, as I mentioned at the top, Chris Paul to the Chicago Bulls. Now, what are the details around this? Well, this was actually an article originally from Bleacher Report and then talked about a bit more on Sports Illustrated to kind of break things down. And I'm going to give my own take here on Bulls Digest on what I think of it. Let's get right into the article. It was titled, Why Trade Proposal Sends Chris Paul to the Chicago Bulls. Crazier trades have happened in the NBA. And it's true, we never know what's going to happen. Chris Paul is obviously out of his prime right now, but can still be a difference maker on almost any team in the NBA. We really have to look at the mentorship he can provide for some of the young guards here. And what we're going to be giving up in this trade is not going to be any of them, which is why we should look into it. Next thing I saw was in this trade proposed by Andy Bailey, the Bulls would send out big man Nikola Vucevic and fan favorite but oft-injured guard Alex Caruso to the Warriors in exchange for Chris Paul, a 2026 first-round pick, and a 2028 first-round pick. While Bailey admitted this trade is a long shot, he also made some solid points, with one being the Bulls would finally get their hands on a legitimate court general. Now, it's important to note there, I'd be fine with trading Vooch away for Chris Paul, but when it gets into some other things, the picks are solid. They could be very good, as the Warriors are getting older. However, I would be worried about trading Caruso right now, but he is getting more and more injury prone, but is a very, very solid player. The Bulls have had their own take on this, and me personally, I wouldn't want to move on from Caruso, but if we could work out something around Vooch for Alex Caruso, or not Alex Caruso, sorry, Chris Paul, if the Warriors were able to add some back, then that would be something I'd look into, because I think Chris Paul's age right now is worth Chris Paul plus for Vooch, not Vooch and Caruso for Chris Paul, because that is a crazy trade to think that he still has that sort of trade value in the NBA. Next thing I saw was, this feels like the biggest swing of the slideshow so far. Poor shooting aside, Chris Paul has actually been solid for the Golden State Warriors. As intended, he's stabilizing minutes without Stephen Curry on the floor, and he's elevating the superstar when they're playing together too, Bailey wrote. Now playing in his 18th season in the league, CP3 is no longer the superstar he once was. What he remains, though, is a heavy floor general who almost always makes the right play. And that's accurate. I mean, he is a very savvy playmaker. He knows what plays to make on the court, and he doesn't cause a lot of unnecessary turnovers. They're always for the greater good. He's looking to make the right pass, not stupid, flashy passes or just things that aren't open. He really knows how to run an offense. And as we saw a few years ago on the Oklahoma City Thunder, he really knows how to propel any roster to higher heights, which is what he could be doing on the Chicago Bulls right now if he were to be traded there. Next thing I saw was, the Bulls could use a veteran leader like Chris Paul, and he's also exactly the kind of player that Billy Donovan loves to coach. He'd be a great mentor for Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu too. And I would have to agree with this, that he would make a great mentor for both of those guys. Kobe White could get anything that he needs to know. His playmaking could be even better than it already is with Chris Paul on the team, and Dosunmu could finally get over some of the slumps that he's been having with Chris Paul there with him. That is very important to note. I think that if we were able to get him for the right value and not lose Caruso, that's definitely something we need to get on the phone and do immediately. The next thing I saw was, this move also would shed some previous cap space, giving the Bulls the opportunity to wipe the slate clean and rebuild this once proud franchise the right way. So if they're looking to do a rebuild or even a retool, this could be a very good situation, getting Chris Paul on the books and shedding some cap. Caruso's and cap we need to shed, but we could look to shed Vooch and probably add some things there in the next couple of seasons, which is good to get on a deal like Chris Paul and be able to mentor some of the guys while he's there as well, instead of just be the star focal point like Vooch is right now. Next thing that I saw in it was the opportunity to unload Nikola Vucevic's contract. He's on the books for $41.5 million over the 2 seasons after this one. Would have to be enticing too, Bailey said. Losing Caruso and his all-around brilliance would hurt, but the possibility of gaining 2 first-round picks may prove too enticing to turn down. For Chicago, this is obviously mostly about the picks. It needs a reboot about as badly as any team in the league, and picks are critical at the opening stages of a reboot. CP3's contract would also add some flexibility. His $30 million salary for 2024-25 is completely non-guaranteed, making him essentially an expiring contract. So that's something that's important to note as well, that he is, once again, essentially an expiring contract because it's a non-guaranteed value for next season, which is very good to have on the books right now. Vucevic's $41.5 million isn't that bad for a big man of his caliber, in my opinion, when you're looking at the money that other teams are making. But if we're looking to rebuild, you really need to shed as much possible cap as you can, and you have to penny and dime, essentially, when it comes to rebuilding, because you need to be able to take on those younger assets, and as their contracts expire, you need to have the money in place that you're able to offer them more so they can continue to grow with your franchise. So that's something they need to look at as well. But I really do think if we can get Chris Paul in here without losing Alex Caruso, that is something we should definitely look into immediately. The last thing that I have to note here is the Dunk Central recently tweeted out saying the Chicago Bulls are hesitant to trade arguably their greatest success story in Alex Caruso per at KCJ Hoop, which is Casey Johnson. Caruso's arguably this regime's greatest success story, and he is the perfect embodiment of the culture the franchise wants to project. Trading him would be painful. And that's true, because they really do believe, he's come up through the ranks, started summer league with the Lakers, then comes all the way over here to the Bulls on a really, really good deal. We're able to extend him, and he is one of the most sought-after players right now when people are looking to trade because of the contract and his value on the defensive end, and now his shooting is so great. Every team would like to have Alex Caruso on their roster, which is why I hope that we don't lose him right now. Even if you're doing a rebuild, we don't need to just blow things up. We can do it slowly. It doesn't need to happen overnight. We need to get the right pieces back in order for us to make a rebuild work right now. This has been your host, Joey Mercer. Some things to think about there, some food for thought. But I can't wait to see you in the next episode. And as always, make sure to go down below, like and comment on the video, subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach 1,000 here by Christmas, and it would mean a lot to us all here at Bulls Digest. And as always, I can't wait to see you in the next one. Signing off.